Time for the injury report on the Pat and Aaron Show, presented by Florida Orthopaedic Institute in partnership with Tampa General Hospital, the best around, and a location near you. So if you're dealing with an injury, make sure to reach out to them today, 1-800-FL-ORTHO, floridaortho.com. Sadly, it is our final injury report of the season, and I say that because we have listeners that reach out to us throughout the season, whether they're patients at Florida Orthopaedic Institute, whether they've been there before, and they always say how much they enjoy when we speak with our doctors because we always learn something new about injuries. And joining us today, once again, Dr. Kumar, thank you so much for joining us this morning.
Hey, good morning, fellas. How you guys doing?
Doing great. Want to get into a couple things today. The Joint Committee of NFL and NFLPA personnel, they did a study. They found that the incidence of lower body injuries was about the same on turf fields as it was on grass fields during this 2023 season. I was surprised by this because I'm just going by my eye test, and it seems like we're getting a lot more injuries on turf. Were you surprised by that number?
I was. When it comes to, all studies, the details matter. So it will be interesting if they do release the full report. Diving down into the nitty-gritty to, analyze kind of how they went about coming to their conclusions. I think the biggest thing, though, is we're looking at it, right? This was 10 years ago. This was not really in the conversation. This phone call and this conversation that you and I are having right now was really not on our radar. And I think the fact that it is only good news, right? We're just looking at more and more ways to protect our athletes, no matter what level of competition, to make sure everybody's safe and having a good time and obviously cutting down on injuries. So I think that's the biggest takeaway, is that we're all focusing on making sure our athletes are safe.
Do you think that turf is more dangerous than grass? And if so, do you think it's that, maybe there aren't more injuries, but there are more catastrophic injuries when it comes to the turf?
Yeah, it could be. I'm a big believer in listening to my athlete, right? Listening to my patients. And I got to say, if you've got a lot of them saying a similar story, to me, that kind of raises eyebrows, right? But again, like looking at the details of exactly what they're talking about and how they went about, coming to these conclusions really matter. That's a great point you brought up. Maybe it might be that the number of injuries are the same, but what type of injuries are very different. So those things will be really important to know what we're dealing with. But, I think, step one, I think any physician would tell you, right? Like, listen to your patient, So I got a lot of athletes telling me that something is giving them issues, and it seems to be the same story across the spectrum. Certainly going to raise eyebrows.
Dr. Kumar, we always want to help our listeners out during these segments. That's why we love having you on. And we just had somebody text in from the 813. Can you ask Dr. Kumar about a high school catcher playing on a torn ACL? Issues, complications, can he play? This person needs your help, Dr. Kumar.
Yeah, no worries. So it's an interesting position. ACLs, we know, ACL injuries and surgery, not going to surprise anybody, right? And especially at a young athletic level, that's not going to surprise anybody. Each position, each sport, particular, requirements, right? So for a catcher, requiring a lot of pivoting and getting up and down and squatting and rotating and sometimes even contact, that would worry me. But again, every sport is different, right? A cross-country runner is going to be different than our gymnast and different than our baseball catcher. So that would be a conversation to have with the patient. Say like, hey, listen, what is your knee doing? What issues are you having? Does it feel normal? And if it doesn't, what's going on? And then just talking to the patient, and in the case of a child, like their parents too, right? Like, what are the goods and bads of what the options are, and we're ready to roll.
Real quick before we let you go here, want to help out people who are thinking of putting maybe some bets on Isiah Pacheco this weekend. He was limited in team practices Thursday, Friday of last week. Currently is in the clear to play. He's dealing with an ankle and a toe injury. How do you think this could limit him? I mean, he's been getting a lot of action for this team.
Yeah, I think that's the first thing we'll look at, right, is reps. When's he getting the ball in high leverage situations or not? And there's a few things that they can do, right, especially for the toe. They can put a kind of a carbon fiber steel plate into the shoe just so the toe doesn't have as much force going through it, allows him to run, with hopefully less pain, and he can be effective, tape up the ankle, those kind of things. This is a situation, obviously Super Bowl, right? So there's no next week we got to save him for. So they're going to bring out everything in the kitchen sink to let him be as effective as he can to hopefully, for them to win the game.
Well, we threw the kitchen sink at you. We threw you some curveballs. You knocked them out of the park, as you always do, Dr. Kumar, and we loved having you on this season, and we really appreciate it. And anybody like our listener that texted in today, you got any issues, you got any questions, Florida Orthopaedic Institute in partnership with Tampa General Hospital. Do not wait any longer. Book that appointment today, 1-800-FL-ORTHO, or go to floridaortho.com. And can't stress it enough, Dr. Kumar, how much we appreciate it and the great work you did this year.
Hey, have a good morning, guys, and we'll see you next year.
See you next year. There you go. Dr. Kumar, Florida Orthopaedic Institute. Make sure you book that appointment today.